Hi, everyone. My name is Morgan. I'm an undergraduate admission counselor here at PACE. Welcome to this live virtual event being hosted by the Department of Media, Communications, and Visual Art and the Office of Undergraduate Admission. To kind of give you a little background about what today's going to look like, the department offers 4 majors: communications, digital journalism, digital cinema and filmmaking, and public relations. And the goal for today is to give students accepted and committed to those majors for this fall an opportunity to learn more about the department, showcase some work created by PACE students, and answer any questions you have. So in a moment, I'm going to hand it over to the department chair, Dr. Paul Zeek, and the manager of the Media Production Lab, Chris Langers. But first, a couple of announcements about how questions and things like that are going to work. So everybody is automatically muted and cameras are all turned off for all attendees, but we will give you the option of asking some questions out loud. So you can use the raise hand feature, and then when you raise your hand, we'll know you have a question and we can unmute you so that you can ask it. We also do have the chat box that's going to be available too. We have a current admission counselor and someone who is actually a student in the department, Brittany Predmore, who will be answering your questions in there in the chat. But if there's any questions that seem very popular in there, I can also ask them out loud for Paul and for Chris. And then at the end of today, if there are any questions that get asked that we're not able to get around to, or we need a little bit more time to get that answer for you, we'll be sure to follow up within a few days to get that answer for you. But at this point, I've kind of gone through everything I needed to, and I'm going to hand it over to Paul and Chris and give them control.
Thanks, Morgan. Thanks, Brittany. Welcome, everyone. Thank you for coming. Chris and I are going to take you through the department. We regularly do the tours, so this is a perfect opportunity for us to connect with you. I'm going to discuss a little bit about the different majors, how the department works, and then Chris and I are going to show you 2 short clips to show you much more in depth on what we mean by experiential learning, which I'm going to explain to you in a minute. So we have 4 majors: communications, which is an overall communications degree where you get to dip into the other areas that are more specific. We have a digital cinema and filmmaking degree. We have a public relations degree, and we have a digital journalism degree. We also have within that, which I'll talk a little bit about more, we have 4 minors. We have an art minor, public relations, integrated marketing communication, where we partnered with the business school. So you take our public relations and their marketing classes and you get a minor. And then we have our brand new minor, which is sports media and broadcasting, where you work on obviously being a sports journalist, sports media expert, and a broadcaster. We are completely hands-on. In other words, our department abides by and holds very true to ourselves the idea of what we call experiential learning. That's learning through doing. So everything that we're going to kind of cover today, you're going to do in the classroom. So you do in the classroom, you produce in the classroom, and then what you do is you go and you reflect on that. And that's the process of learning that we adhere to. So it doesn't matter whether or not you're journalism or filmmaking or public relations or even communication. When we talk about social media, you are a media maker. That's how we look at you. From day one, we consider you what we consider a media maker. You are going to learn the processes of all of these majors to make sure that when you get to whatever you're looking to do, which we'll cross over into, if you want to do television, you want to be an anchor, that you'll have a basis in understanding what all of those jobs and all of those careers will set you through. So we'll take it through a little bit. So I know that there's some DCF students out there and some journalism students. So we actually queued up 2 clips for you, but I wanted to review it really quickly. So when I say that we're experiential learning, I mean in filmmaking, you will, within the major, take classes in pre-production, classes in principal photography, and then classes in post, right? So you will generate ideas for stories. You will script write. You will map out the producing part of it. Then you'll move to phases in the department where you will learn cameras. You will learn the moving camera. You will learn how to use a gimbal, how to use a Steadicam. You'll learn sound. You'll learn sound engineering. You'll also learn lighting. You'll then move to post-production, where we'll teach you not just editing, But one really important factor that we like to talk about, the promotion of a film, because you got to get people to go and watch. And it's the same across the sphere. So if we talked about journalism, which I know some of you are interested in, you will learn from day one. You start our program, literally the first semester, you'll start on how you collect the news, how you will package it, and then how you'll send it out to the greater world, whether it's digital, whether it's print, whether it's newspaper, whether it's radio. So that's what I mean by experiential learning. We are completely focused on giving you these tools. And here's really the cool part. So the two things we're going to show you are really things that you do in class. So each class is kind of geared towards you doing a project that you'll get to take with you. So in one of the clips that Chris is going to show you, it's a cinematography class. In the cinematography class, the professor might say to you, all right, these are the things that we're going to focus on in this class that I want you to learn. I want you to learn how to, you know, make a shot using the dolly, right? Or create a shot using the dolly. And he'll give you these kind of goals and marks to hit in the class. And then what you'll do is you will go write, shoot, or film, and then edit a final package. In other words, each class you will come out of with another clip, a fully produced clip, which we're going to show you in a minute. And even in journalism, by the way, public relations runs the same way, and so does the communications. So then what you're going to do is, I don't want you to think that that's just what you do in class, because we really, really encourage you to get working outside of class. So what happens is you take all of that knowledge you have in class, and then you kind of shape up with whatever students you have. And now we have groups of students that are out there. We have one that's producing a monthly sketch comedy. We have some that are producing their own documentaries. This is outside of class. You're kind of building your knowledge and you're building your base. And by the way, you're doing it not just because you're doing this thing that you want to get a job. You're doing it because you love it. You're following your passion. So if you're really into camera work, right, you go to our lab, which I'll talk about in a minute, and you walk, literally is what happens. You walk into the lab and someone will say, you know, we're filming tomorrow. And they're like, we need someone to help us on camera. I got that. We need someone to do the boom. I got that. So the way we work it is we have 2 black box studios, right? And they're fully equipped with all the equipment that you could use. We have dollies, we have collapsible dollies and booms. We have steady cams, gimbals. We have 3 basic levels of equipment that we'll talk about, whether it's journalism or cameras. So we start you off on like a basic level, like maybe DSLR. Everything is professional grade. So everything that you'll touch and everything that you'll see, you will use out in the field. You'll move to a mid-level camera, and then you'll work all the way up to the cameras that they'll shoot the Avengers on, which we have Blackmagic, we have Sony's, we have everything you could think of. And that's not to say that equipment is everything, because you'll also learn how to make a film on an iPhone, which, by the way, we had a group of faculty and students partner on last summer, and they actually won an award for making like they entered into a festival outside of class, and they won an award for doing an iPhone film. And then I want you to think within that, you'll delve into the specialty areas that you're really interested in. So we're really about you kind of following what you're interested in. So you'll match up with faculty and students that you're interested in. So if you're a journalist and you're really into sports, we kind of push you towards our sports classes, right? And if it's international, we'll push you towards international. And then this is where the really important aspect of becoming a liberal arts institution lies, is that you get to take classes outside of the department, which will fulfill your knowledge in whatever area that you're interested in. We don't track you. We don't say this is where you should be at this point. We kind of shape up your degree and your knowledge in the areas that you're interested in. So you come and you get matched up with both a Dyson College advisor, and you get matched up with a faculty member as an advisor. And you could pick and choose whatever faculty member you are at first, or faculty member you want. At first it'll be me, and then you go and choose that faculty member that you're interested in. So maybe it's international journalism, maybe it's sports journalism, and then you go to those 2. We have someone that had worked on NPR radio for 10 years. We also have a recording studio. So if you're interested in radio, you kind of revolve toward her. The idea here is that you're going to kind of pick and choose your interests and then follow it that way. And then we literally build your class schedule around your interests. So I'm going to give it to Chris for a second, and we're going to show you the first clip we're going to show you is a DCF clip. And as Chris takes over and cues us up, I will talk to you really quickly about what you're going to watch. So this is Trunk. This was done in 2017 in a cinematography class. Now, I want you to realize everything that you see and watch here was created within a class, within a semester, right? All by students. So they were given one task, and I'll show you what it is. They were given a task which is called using poor man's process, which is showing a car moving without actually moving the car. And then they wrote the entire script around it. Go ahead, Chris.
New to this job. That's fine. I was interested. You get all that?
What? I mean, don't be like that. All right, look, I'm listening. All right, I'm all ears.
Now he's listening. Okay, this has to be perfect. You understand?
Mm-hmm.
Nothing out of place. Attention to detail. You get it?
Yep.
Oh, so now you're the teacher. What's the next step then, Sensei?
You dump the body in the lake like
You dump the body in the lake. You're missing some steps. You're missing
Like
some
what?
steps. Like what is it? You kidding me?
I didn't.
Are you serious?
I didn't do.
You tied her up?
Yeah, I tied her up. I tied her up real good.
Yeah. You used the knot I showed you?
Yes, I used the knot you showed me. I used
Okay.
to be an Eagle Scout. I can tie knots.
Okay, Mr. Eagle Scout. We still got to check.
I had to piss anyway.
Yeah, good. You take that piss.
Let's go. Working professional. Do your job.
Meeting.
Damn it. Come here, idiot. Come here, moron. Get up. Get off your ass and get the girl. You're going to be in the trunk. Ah!
Sunshine. This is how you tie him out. Yeah, it's your fault.
Okay, so I'll talk to you really quickly while we queue up the other one. So That is an example. That's one class, that's cinematography. You do that in basically every class. By the time you're done, right, you have done everything from this semester. We had a black and white shot, like a film noir where they were looking for a killer. We had a couple semesters ago, I laughed because we have a nice little horror thing going. We had what was it? A cannibal where they were, you know, a couple was at dinner and they were like, oh, we didn't realize you like to eat, you know, and we taught them how to make fake blood and how to make this look real. We also have, like I said, the sketch comedy. But what I want you to realize is every class ends with that kind of package that you have. So by the end, like I was saying, you have a list of all of the things you did in class and what you did in those and for those classes. And then you have all of the material that you might have produced outside. So, and this is for every major. So we also have, which Chris is going to cue up, our recent anchoring class, which ran in the spring, did some nice work on COVID. And this is the idea that even outside all of that stuff that you just saw was in our own building in our studio, that we teach you how to look at all of what's happening in the world as part of the material to make you a media maker. And we're going to show you one of the clips that we just had introduced a couple of weeks ago on, this is digital journalism and this is anchoring. Go ahead, Chris. Ready to go.
For New Yorkers living through the COVID-19 pandemic, the city sounds and looks a little different. From the sound of ambulances to the sound of a collective 7 p.m. cheer, the cheer for essential workers and healthcare professionals has become a symbol of appreciation and hope. For Maura McCarthy and Genesis Liberato, who work in COVID-19 units, the collective cheering has offered a source of motivation.
It's weird, like I wouldn't consider myself a hero. It's nice to be thanked and like appreciated. Some nights you can't sleep from anxiety of having to come into work the next day, but those chants just make you kind of take a deep breath and say to yourself, you're exactly where you're supposed to be and you are making a difference. So thank you.
There is no doubt that these cheers won't stop until we beat in this pandemic. As you can hear, it's 7 p.m. in New York City. I've got my pot and spoon in hand and I'm ready to make some noise. Thank you to our medical professionals and essential workers. Reporting from New York City, I'm Natalie Hernandez.
So that's Natalie. She's going to be a senior in our digital journalism major. So the way this works is very similar to DCF, which is digital cinema filmmaking. As a journalist, they take you through the entire process. So not only are you taught how to create a story, but you're actually taught how to then get the equipment, use the equipment, pick your shot selection, pick what you want to say, and then edit it into a full package. And the reason why we do this is very simple. We have lots of graduates who are now in the field of journalism. And what happens is that, I mean, I know that most of you know this, but I'll review it. And this is why we're very experiential, very connected to the environment, is that a lot of times journalists don't have a crew with them anymore. Right? They're what you call predators. They're producers and editors together, right? Basically, they take a tripod, they take a camera, even if it's an iPad or an iPhone, and they're doing their own stories and uploading them. We teach you that. And the way it works is we have a fully stocked lab that Chris and some of his fellow lab staff run. And you come in and you say, I have a project. I have to do a report on sports, or I've got to do a film today, and you pull a ticket. You go online, you say, Chris, I need this light package, I need this camera, I need this microphone, or I need the recording studio, I need the editing studio. And then he actually reserves all of it for you, puts the package of equipment together, you take it, you go, you do your project, you come back 3 days later, you give us the equipment back. There's no additional fee for the equipment. Right? And it's all run through our own lab, right? You don't have to go to an outside firm to get your equipment. it's completely done within the lab, and you learn things within your classes that you'll be able to use. Maybe it's, you know, you'll use a specific or special mic, like a lav or a Rode mic that you might want to integrate into your new program. Or you might, how about this? We have a drones class where you learn how to fly drones and become an FAA certified drone instructor. You might partner with someone to take drone shots, right? Like we do that all the time. We love to do partnerships. A good example was our print media class. They were learning how to write magazines, wanted drone footage or drone shots of the campus last semester so they could make it their photo for the cover of the magazine. So they went to the students in the drone class, partnered with them. They flew the drones, took pictures, and then they integrated that into their magazine. It was a really great idea. The idea completely and that overrides the entire department is the fact that everything is experientially based. So I'm almost about ready to end. The one thing I wanted to say to you was we are one of the faster growing campuses, departments on Pleasantville. We're really lucky that we have the opportunity to kind of grow and add on to our equipment. Everything that you're going to touch, I really want to get back to this, is a professional piece of equipment. Internships are required in our department. You have to take at least one. Typically, students take at least 2 or 3. So what you're doing is you're seeing all of the things that you're going to use by the time you get to your internship. And when you get there, you will have not seen anything that you're not equipped to at least understand what the role is. You're not going to be an expert Avid user, but you will use Avid. You will sit down with someone in an interview. You will sit down with an editor, and you will be able to talk about nonlinear editing using Avid, using Vinci, using Premiere. So I wanted to thank you for my time for my little spiel, and now we'll open it to some questions.
All right, great. So at this point, if you do have questions, you can use the raise hand feature. We'll give you the option of asking it out loud. You can also post it in the chat, and we'll also ask those out loud too. So to kind of give people a time to do those things, I kind of have like an introductory question. You just mentioned internships. And I think just overall at PACE, that's like a big thing we really focus on, is giving you that practical experience and getting you out in the real world. What are some examples of like internships that some students have been doing recently? Like what are some popular roles and places that people have been going?
Okay, so there's a couple ways I'm going to answer that. The first one is that we're really connected to our former graduates, right? So every year we host a networking event where we ask our graduates to come back, right, and help our undergraduates achieve their goals. So a lot of our internships, not all of them, but a great deal of them actually get funneled through our former graduates. So some of our bigger places that you'll see is, and this is an exaggeration, we have 8 people working in NBC Sports. We have 7 people working in the A&E. We have more interns there beyond the people that are full-time. We have we have graduates at Vice, so we have interns there. Outside of our graduate connections that you'll have, right? And that includes MSG, you know, Madison Square Garden. We have other students who, and this is one of the things that we work on you with, I'm sorry to take so much long, is that if you have one particular place that you really want to work at, right? We work with you to get in and to do that. We scour our, not just career services that we're really good at, we scour our own graduates and we try to connect you there. So we have every semester, and we had 3 there this semester who had to come home. They were at Disney, right? They were working at Disney, interning at Disney, and they had to come home early. Their desire was to always go to Disney for their internships, right? So we do it a couple ways. We kind of match you through all of these connections that we have fostered, and then we talk to you about what you're really interested in, right? So, and that can include you going to the West Coast, because we have someone who's actually working this summer. Her internship is at MTV in LA, right? So she's going to be working on some of the programming out there, right? So she really wanted to be involved in MTV. So she kind of gravitated towards there. I could tell you a list of all of the companies, every major media organization in New York City we've pretty much worked at, and we pretty much interned at. NBC, ABC, CBS, Vice is a new one. Vice is really popular because a lot of the students love Vice, right? And then they've worked on particular shows. So we have graduates and internships on Blue Bloods. We have graduates and internships working on specific shows at HBO, like Insecure, right? We have graduates and interns just working as producers at HBO. We have, and this is funny, most of our NBC people work on the Olympics, right? Like we have like 6 or 7 that are working and going to the Olympics, right? We have one graduate who's won 2 Emmys working on the Olympics. So it's a wide variety. And the reason why we say that is when you go and you do digital journalism or digital cinema and filmmaking, you really get an understanding of pretty much how production works. And then you go into television or film or even social media, depending on what your real interest is. Does that help you? Career service is great, by the way. They will work with you from the day you walk in the door, and they do cool things. I'm just gonna talk. They do cool things. Not only do they help you with your resume, but they'll help you also develop your interviewing skills. So we did mock interviews just in February where they brought in people from outside of the university to interview our students and work on their interviewing skills. So they do, and they teach you how to work LinkedIn. So that coupled with us kind of allows you to dip into the areas that you really like. Okay, what else?
That's great. So the next question I have is about minors. So what kinds of minors are offered by the department?
So we have it, so that I'm going to answer in 2 ways. Our own department, right? We have an art minor. We're also the art department. So, which is really very symbiotic because in the art department, you get to take digital art and animation and 3D, and you could couple that with your media making skills. So you could do art, you could do public relations. So a lot of our journalists minor in public relations to get the crossover so they understand how the 2 sides work. We have what's called integrated marketing and communications, like I said, is a partnership with the business school. And then we have sports broadcasting and media, which is a quite popular minor. But the way the programs are built, because I really believe in, and so do all the other faculty, and you kind of doing, like you get to do this once, you know what I mean? Like this is your opportunity, and we really want to feed into that. We've built the programs, so if you have an interest outside of the department, we kind of encourage you to do that to fulfill your individuality and your interests. So like I said, if you're really interested in politics, we tell you to go, I want to be a political journalist. We tell you to go get a minor in politics or philosophy, right? Or you want to do environmental work, like you want to be a journalist or a filmmaker that works on environmental projects, go get the minor in environmental studies. Does that make sense? So we built it so your open electives are open where we kind of work with you on what you're interested in. So you could stay within the department and like really specialize, or you could kind of go outside and fill in, all these great things we have. Like we have a film and screen studies minor that's really good. That's a real like theory, critical analysis of film. There's also, media management out of the business school, which is really great. Like it teaches you all the actual numbers in business. We're very creative. Like, we're going to teach you how to look like a fight scene looks really good, right? If you couple that with learning all the business ends, like now we're talking about really building something. So we really work, I know Morgan, you didn't know you were going to get this, did you? We really work with who you are to kind of develop that path of your interests. So that's 2 ways to look at the minor. Great.
The next digital cinema or journalism student I talk to is going to get more information that they expected from me. So we do have 2 questions that have come in. The first one was, do student athletes have a hard time balancing schoolwork as well as internships?
No, they don't. And I'll tell you why. So you get a Dyson, are you ready? You get a Dyson College advisor who will actually help you shape your schedule. especially as an athlete. By the way, athletes get to register first for classes. So you get to pick your classes based off of your practice schedule. So we have a lot of football players. Their Mondays are open. So they gravitate towards Mondays, right? And then what happens is you go to your advisor and you say, I want to take my internship. I want to take it within this semester. And then she and he and I actually build your schedule with the other faculty to kind of work it in to your practice schedule. And don't forget, you could also take internships over the summer, over winter break. Because internships are so difficult to schedule, we really make them open. We let you go over the semesters if we have to. They're not difficult to get. They're difficult to schedule because I understand everyone's got to work. They have sports, and so we try to work it in. But no, they're not. And athletes get to work with the advisors more heavily on making sure that their schedules match up with their practice.
Great. The next question is a very interesting one. So are there study abroad opportunities for digital cinema and filmmaking students?
Yes, there are study abroad. So one of the things that our department is pretty well known for, and I'll give you some more of the information on this, is that every year we have one faculty member who in the spring researches, writes, then on spring break goes and films, edits after spring break, and then premieres a documentary, and it's always international. So, and it's always got some sort of, like, let's say, environmental twist. So she's been to Belize. She's been to, oh my God, Chris, help me out. Brazil, Chris.
Brazil, Mexico, the Netherlands.
Right, Portugal, right? So like, I'll give you an example. So one year, she went and investigated the sea turtles in Mexico, right? Another year, she went and looked at the cork industry in Portugal, right? Every year, she develops a documentary based on actual travel abroad. So you pack up the equipment, you get on your flight, and you head out. So you do your filming. And that's one example of the things that we do in the department. There's also the international studies department where you could study abroad for the entire semester and not do the documentary the entire semester and actually go do this happens a lot too. It's really cool. And go do an internship for either an American company that has a studio somewhere or a studio-based company outside of the United States. So I mean, like, everyone has these studios in far-flung lands. Like, you could intern there. So yes, you could do a couple of those. And our study abroad class isn't the only one. Like, there's a ridiculously popular study abroad class with philosophy, right? Where they go to Rome and you study Rome and then you take a Rome trip. But our most popular one is the documentary.
Cool. That sounds great. Is there somewhere where they can see those documentaries? Like, are they on the YouTube?
Yeah. So I was gonna wait. All right. So if you
okay.
Yeah, but I'll do it now. If you go to our YouTube page, Pace MCVA, you could see a whole bunch of things. You could see the documentaries, right? You could see the thing that we showed you, Trunk, we call it a class collab, right? And that's there. And then you could also see student produced work. So, and think about all of the students that are doing all of their own stuff. We let them load it up on our YouTube. One of the things that I want to say about the department, speaking of like YouTube, Pace MCVA, is that when we say we abide by and are really interested in student work, we mean that. In other words, like, we have a public relations club, right? It's called Entrance One, who does all of our social media. They're in control of our social media. Our promos that you're going to see on the website, on the YouTube, they're actually done by students, right? It is completely student produced, right? Like, we guide you, we give you the advice and the expertise that we have, right? Which is important. I'll bring this up in a second. And then we let you produce it and create it and then like we kind of work with you on that. But when I mean it's student produced, I mean it's student produced. Like, we do not step in and say, no, I really think, you know, I will not let you post this unless you cut this. We will give you the advice, and then you follow it. Every faculty member in the department is a professional. In other words, every faculty member in our department worked first and then came to academia later. Everyone has experience. So, you know, the documentarian was a corporate video producer. We had someone from A&E who transitioned over. I was in corporate communication. I transitioned over, right? We have actually one of our journalism professors still makes documentaries for PBS. So everyone is a professional, and we really take pride in the idea that the students are going to produce their own work. What else you got?
Sorry to get ahead of your plan. So the next question we have is, what is the expected, or what is the average income after college for a communications student?
Wow,
So,
that's a really hard one, because it really depends on the environment. No, it depends on the area you go into.
mm-hmm.
And it depends on the skills that you want to get. So, I mean, remember, we're talking about, you know, you could go and work for, I mean, how about this? So there's a program called Vinci, right? It's a editing software, right? We have a faculty member who is a Vinci certified instructor, right? Not all of our students take that, right? If you take that, it adds to your value in the marketplace. Does that make sense? So, and we also have a lot of students who follow their own path. We have a graduate who is actually working for social media influencers, making their own videos, and he's actually doing it as a contractor, even, you know, in his 20s. So it's kind of hard for me to answer that, because not everyone goes into corporate America. Not everyone follows and goes to NBC and does the track, becomes like an assistant editor or editor. Sometimes they go to work for, I'll give you a good example. We had someone who was a really good filmmaker, went to work for Siemens, the technology company, making corporate videos. He made more because he took his skills outside and went into corporate America and started to do like internal communication.
Great, that all makes sense. So really, it's all about, you know, if you're getting active on campus and taking those opportunities, you're gonna do yourself a favor down the line.
You ready for this? I say this all the time. So ready? I'm going to cut you off. I do the academic expectations for the incoming students for Dyson College. I say this one thing all the time. It's all about experiences. And I hate to do this because everyone's like, yeah, I'm wearing the Pace shirt. It's about opportunities. Take your opportunities. The more experiences you have, the more things you get to learn, the more things you get to put on your resume, the better you get. So when you go into a resume and you say, I took DaVinci Resolve, I worked on a color correction studio, right? Like, I have clips. It makes you a better candidate, and it gets you more money. It's all about experiences and opportunities. And like, that's really the basis of where we're going as a department. Like, that's how we go.
Great. So it looks like the questions are starting to slow down a little bit.
Okay.
So if you are out there, if you do have any of those last questions that you wanted to ask, definitely now is a great time to put them in the chat. Something that I think we haven't quite addressed. I mean, you talked about it a little bit, but we had talked like more about like the type of equipment people will be using, things like that. Is there anything, you know, specific or that you can kind of share about, you know, what those types of things will be? Yeah,
I mean, we have Black Magic. We have all the high-end equipment that you could think of. We have Sony C300s. And I'm talking to like the techies out there again. Like, we have, you are not going to work on equipment that is going to be only at a lower level, mid-level. Like, we were really blessed in the fact that the university has really invested in us heavily. So the equipment that you're going to see, I am not kidding, was used for the Avengers, right? Like, the Black Magic cameras that we use are the cameras that they shoot a lot of films on right now. right? And then we have like Chris, we have lights, right? We're always, and one of the things that, you ready for this? We're always dipping into, and I'm going to get to something specific. We're always dipping into emerging media. So one of the things that we started using over the last couple of years is that we have 3 virtual reality stations. And we have a class called Emerging Media, where we teach you how to shoot in 360, film in 360, and then render in virtual reality. So in the lab, Chris has actual virtual reality machines where it's part of a class, because virtual reality is becoming a really important aspect of today's environment. And by the way, really important aspect in the journalism side, not so much the filmmaking side. And the reason why we started thinking about this is because here's how it connects. The documentary went to Puerto Rico, right, after the hurricane. And when they were down there, Facebook was there shooting in 360. Remember that, Chris? In virtual reality, showing the devastation, right? And so you could kind of look around and see the devastation in Puerto Rico. And we were like, wow, that's really cool. And then we started integrating those kind of things into the department. So you shoot in 360, you render in virtual reality, which takes like enormous amount of computing power. You have every editing software that you could think of. You learn Premiere, Avid, Vinci, right? They're integrated in all the classes. Panasonic, Sony. Chris, you want to throw anything else in that I'm missing?
I mean, just the basic, like the 3 tiers of like, you know, when you start taking like your intro to media production course, you're using like more entry level but high end cameras, like 4K camcorders. And then as you transition into more advanced classes like cinematography, art of moving camera, even lighting, you're starting to use more advanced equipment like C300s, Sony NX80s, the Blackmagic Ursa Minis, and then we also have DSLRs. We have Canon 5Ds, Canon 6Ds, and Sony A7S II, I believe. And all those things, as you learn how to use them in your class, just going back off of what something Dr. Zeke said before, as you learn how to use those in your class, you gain access to that equipment to work on your projects outside of class. So if you want to make short films or like documentaries, anything like that, we offer that equipment to you as well.
All right, great. That was definitely for the techies in the crowd who want to know what equipment they'll be using. So we did have another question come in. How does the PACE filmmaking program, curriculum, and internships compare to other New York and New Jersey filmmaking schools?
So in every school you're going to learn filmmaking. We've pushed really to the experiential side. So even our, what you call quote unquote theory classes, you take from a directorial perspective. In other words, you don't take film theory in our department. So if you take a class, like I'll give you an example, what we call studies in horror, right? Or the Western, you watch horror films from a directorial perspective, in that you will study you won't study like the theory of horror. You'll study how did they light that scene, right? How did they cut the music in? Was that on a Foley, or was that, you know, from the set? Like, that's how we approach this. Like, it is not vastly different from every other university, but it is a little bit different. There's no theory classes. There's no introductory film where you'll take a critical analysis. Like, when you take your first class, you have 2 first classes. As an example, you take media production, which the text is actually the text from the equipment. You come in, you're in the studio, there are seats. I'm laying this out for you. There are seats, right? Professor comes in, says, today we're going to learn about microphones. Here's a lav, here's this, here's that. He has the equipment on a cart, says, all right, move your seats to the side, and then you grab the microphones and you start working. That's an introductory course. And then the other introductory course is what we call making of motion picture. And that's teaching you from day one how to create. In other words, like the bones of how to create a 3-act structure story. Then how do you take that story and then you lay things on, like you lay on not just what your character looks like, but how are you going to film that character? What's the light of that character going to look like? What's your makeup going to look like? What, you know what I mean? Like what's all of the stuff that you need. It's all from a directorial perspective, all from the production side, no film studies. But that's why I was saying before, like, if you're interested in getting like the total overview, like we have a really strong film studies department, which you could take that minor and get that critical analysis. We're going to work on the creative media making aspect from day one.
Great. So we had another question come in. Are there any projects that are collaborative, or is it mainly individual?
No, you know, it was funny. I was going to say they're all collaborative. But how about this? Go back. What do you mean by individual? How about that? Give me that. Because I can answer it, but maybe I'm not going to answer the way they want to know. What do you mean by individual?
All right, I'll give them a second to type out the follow-up. Because yeah, I was going to say a lot of what you were describing earlier, you know, about people just going into the labs and being like, hey, we need someone to shoot, we need this, like that, very much feels like a collaborative thing. So maybe they're talking more about like the actual projects themselves. Like, is it going to be an individual in charge and everybody else is just kind of helping out, or is it more of a everybody gets everybody's involved in developing?
No, so basically what happens is that this is actually really cool, and this is in part because Chris really fosters this. We in the lab, we actually have like a lab where you like a lounge lab. If you have a story that you've created, like say in story idea development, and you say, I want to make this story, I really want to create this story, right? It's yours to create. The collaborative part is you need a crew, but you are in charge. You're the director, you're the producer. Do you know what I'm saying? In other words, you go in and you say, it's me. And I say to Chris, when I mean shape up, I say, Chris, I really need you to help me be the DP on this. But it's still your project. You're just using them as crew. And by the way, what I mean by collaborative is it flips, right? So what happens is that I might say to Chris, I wrote this story. Chris, I want you to help me film it. It's a short. Right? And then we go and do it. And then Chris will say to me in like 3 months, I wrote mine. I need you to do lighting. And then I come on. That's what I mean by collaborative. Now, sometimes, you know, it'll literally be, they'll be shooting ideas around the lab, right? And then they'll be like, yo, we should go do that. You know what I mean? And they go write a script. The sketch comedy that we have, it's called Super Dankness. It's one of our we're most proud of Blake. He does Super Dankness. It's a collaborative endeavor. It was his idea to do sketch comedy, and then everyone kind of jumps on it. But he also has his own stuff that he kind of goes and gets. Do you know what I mean? What is it? Students from. So it's individual, but collaborative because you need a crew. You always need a crew.
And then kind of like a follow-up question, Angelina says that's exactly what she was asking about. So that was a perfect explanation. So a follow-up question kind of related was, are people from other majors also participating in the creative process, or is it very much interdepartmental?
No. It's no, because you need a crew, right? Including actors and actresses, right? It's really open to all these other departments. And what happens is, I'll give you two things. What happens is filmmakers and journalists, right? Even PR people always drag their friends into it. Like, so Chris is laughing because he knows. So like, you need extras. Like I'll give you 2 examples. We were doing a music video for a Bronx-based band. We did 4 music. We had 1 class, ready for this? 1 class broke into 4 groups this semester, and they made 4 videos for actual bands in the Bronx, right? and one of the bands was like an alternative rock, like a 90s kind of sound. They needed a mosh pit, right? And so they went and they got people from other departments to come involved. That's the basic. The other way that they do it is that the other students actually get involved in the process, more hands-on. So we have something called the prison film, where you study prison films from this directorial perspective. And we have criminal justice students taking that class, and they're now, there's 4 of them, they're in the lab working on films. They're part of, like, we also have a film club. They're part of the film club, like involved in, right there. And they're like, well, we want to be lawyers and stuff like that, but they're in, like, that's part of what they're interested in. So yeah, so they get involved in the creative endeavor. You'll always need actors and actresses, and you will always bounce ideas off of people. And it's really good, by the way, and I know this from experience, it's a really great idea to always bounce ideas off of people who are not filmmakers, right? Because they always have a perspective that, you know, you're into the technical weeds, right? And you might be just missing something. Whereas, you know, that criminal justice group is looking at it from a completely different perspective, and they're going to say, you should look at this. And you're like, wow, I never thought of that. So no, the lab is like a completely open area, a lot of creativity happening. However, the equipment is only used and taken out by department people, department students, like only students from the department can request and check out equipment.
Okay, great. So that was the last question that we had.
Okay.
What I'll do, just very quickly, while we kind of wrap things up, is there are definitely other ways to get connected with PACE and to, you know, virtually learn more about things. The first place I would recommend is Pacebound Online, which is our online community. It's a great place to, like, meet other students. So if you're looking for a roommate, if you're looking to learn a little bit more about what PACE is about, we do have current students that are in there, and we'll answer questions about their experience so far. But it's also a great place to learn more and to meet other people who are thinking about coming to PACE. All of the Instagrams are always very active. The Instagram stories every single day. There's a lot to go through, and I feel like I know a lot about what's going on campus because of following those accounts. If you do have questions about anything related to the application process, to depositing, to next steps, anything like that, you can see that the undergraduate admission email is up there. And if you had questions specifically for the department, I did put up Dr. Zeke's email. So if you do have specific questions, that's a great place to send them. And then at the end, you can see some other places on Instagram to get you know, involved too. But yeah, just to kind of wrap it up, firstly, I want to thank Dr. Zeke and Chris for, you know, taking the time today, kind of talk about the department and answer all those questions. It was great to kind of get an insight into all of this from both of you. And if you do have any more questions, if you want to, you know, connect with a faculty, anything like that, you can send an email to either of the 2 emails you see on your screen to do that. But thank you all again. Please stay safe, and hopefully we'll see you on campus this fall.